All right, so the Xbox Developer Direct just wrapped up. It was a little over 40 minutes long, and they indeed went over the four games that they had already mentioned, but they had one other one thrown in there as a surprise that was kind of ruined a bit early with it leaking out. But I don't think anyone expected to be that excited for a game that wasn't even mentioned in the initial card. But we're going to go over all of the different reveals here today and some of the release dates, as well as some of my thoughts on what they showed. So if you guys enjoy the video, make sure you like it and subscribe down below if you're new to the Small Wave Plus channel. So going through my notes here, they did start with Minecraft Legends. Now, not a big Minecraft person. I understand if you are really into that universe, this probably looks really exciting. You're ready for this game. It's coming out April 18th. They were showing it off, and it looked kind of like a cross, I guess, between Minecraft, Age of Empires, and that tower defense mode from Brutal Legend. That's maybe the best way I can describe it. It has PvP as well as a story-driven campaign. It's online with co-op. Full cross-platform play with online matchmaking. So they've taken all of that into account to match up with what they've done with Minecraft, which is playable across all platforms right at this point. Now, it is procedurally generated, so all the different skirmishes and maps you play on will change up consistently. And I think this is going to be a game that, like I said, will be very popular. Yes, because it's Minecraft. Also, it's just another game kind of in that universe, another spin on Minecraft that is very, very popular as it is. But look forward to that one in 3 months, actually. So coming up here pretty quick on the schedule. Then they moved over to Forza Motorsport with Turn 10. You know what I noticed with this Direct, by the way, very quickly, from Microsoft? They were shooting the Developer Direct like they were still setting up the Developer Direct. They would use these camera angles to make it look like it was very informal while also trying to make it look very professional. And they had people in the background setting stuff up while they're recording. It was, I don't know, I guess Microsoft's still trying to make it feel kind of grounded, like you were talking to developers and not like they were on stage trying to be super professional or anything. Like you're down there in the trenches seeing these games be made on computers and these different things. Anyway, Forza Motorsport. It has over 500 cars, 800 unique upgrades, heavy emphasis on physics. They really want us to know that these cars can get smashed and damaged and beaten up, but also as that's happening, the car will drive differently. It has a certain feel to it, and that makes sense for Forza Motorsport specifically. It's not Horizon, it's the track simulator. This is the game that people build out those ridiculous rigs with the steering wheels and the shifting knobs and all these different things. So they want it to feel as realistic as possible, and that does involve things like the track that you're racing around on, the time of day, the different upgrades. And they went through a laundry list of stuff that they have done here, and they said, built from the ground up, over and over and over again. So even things down to the way your car sounds will change depending on the upgrades. The obvious examples would be your exhaust and your intake, but even down to the tires and pressure and a lot of stuff when it comes to the fine details here. 20 different environments, has 10 times more details than previous generations. The cloud systems procedurally generated, 4K 60 FPS, with ray tracing. So this is a visual spectacle, and we could see that just through a stream on Twitch or YouTube at 1080p. I can only imagine this game is going to look very, very impressive on like the 65-inch OLED right in front of you. Single player campaign. Here's the big drawback though, and the big miss. It's unfortunate. Still no release date. This is a show where every other game showed up with something to give us or really put in front of us with a release date next to it. Not Forza Motorsport. So that is unfortunate. I don't know if they're going to wait all the way until E3 to date this thing, but I was kind of hoping this would have been out maybe ahead of or just after Redfall, which we'll get to that release date soon. But I'm kind of thinking Forza Motorsport is going to end up in the second half now of 2023, mostly because a lot of the release schedule is now kind of marked and we're set up now until we get to E3 with more information for some other games coming up. Anyway, Tango Gameworks. It's really funny. This is a game that we heard a little bit about. I was like, it could be interesting. It was kind of put on the same level as Pentiment. kind of is, I guess, if you look at it as a smaller project, quote unquote, not some large, big budget title that would come out of Tango Gameworks like what we saw with Ghostwire Tokyo or anything with Evil Within. This is Hi-Fi Rush. It leaked out early, but we didn't know what it looked like necessarily. It was being described as something akin to Jet Set Radio. And after I saw it, it was funny. There were a lot of comparisons that were being drawn to, Jet Set Radio, Beautiful Joe. Basically, it's cel-shaded. That's the biggest thing there. And people immediately were thinking of all these other cel-shaded games and just throwing the names out there. But very stylish. It looks great in motion. The animation is the part that really stuck out to me of the different characters that they had. They all look very unique in general. And this is, I think, a fun release, mostly because, get this, it's out tonight. It is a shadow drop from one of their studios, Tango Gameworks. And while it is on the smaller side in terms of projects, it would be, I guess, AA compared to a larger AAA game. I think this is a great idea for Microsoft to do going forward if they can indeed produce the number of games that they would need while doing this. I think it makes a lot of sense to have the shadow drop to go along with Game Pass, as that can get impulse signups for a title that just comes out. You see it there during the presentation. One, it's exciting to get the shadow drops. We've seen this from Nintendo time and time again with their directs. They do this essentially every time, especially with the indie directs. But it's fun to have something to look forward to right then and there after the show ends. It's going live hours after the show had just finished up, so just sometime tonight. But it's still really cool to have something after the presentation and the showing of the game for the first time is still fresh in your mind. But it sounds like it's trying to be kind of tongue-in-cheek, very different from what we've had from Tango Gameworks with something like Evil Within. I'll be curious to see how the jokes and the dialogue works over the course of a full game. I say full game in the sense that this is probably not like a 20-hour marathon, nothing like that. I think this will more or less be a bite-sized game, maybe a 5 or 6 hour title, just based on the overall scope. But I like the idea of it kind of being rhythm-based. The music will change and get better, I believe, as you perform better in the game itself with the action-based combat. Kind of reminds me a bit of Devil May Cry, where as you did really, really well, you would have like better and better music play. It's faster. And it was pretty funny because if you were bad at the game, it would just have all kinds of messed up parts of the soundtrack playing. But I'm excited for this one. I will absolutely be checking it out tonight. Let's see. We then had ZeniMax Online Studios, and they showed off the Elder Scrolls Online again, and this is a game I just missed the boat on it, and there's so much content, and it's an MMO that I'm probably never going to get into it because I just wouldn't have the time anyway with all the games that consistently come out. But if you're into Elder Scrolls Online, this seems like something you'd be very excited for with the ESO Necrom expansion that they're doing here. A brand new playable class. It's launching in June. And the one thing I will give them just to try to pull people into it a bit more, all previous chapters and downloadable content they're just adding in is free. So if you have Game Pass, some games you'll be able to just get, right? You can download. But then there's expansions and other things you can buy on top of that base game that you downloaded. It appears in this case you have the chapters and DLC for free. At least that's the way that they were kind of describing it. So, hey, if you've been curious about Elder Scrolls Online, seems like a good chance to jump in and see what it's all about and see if it's something you're interested in. And then we finished up with Redfall, which from Arcane Austin, we've been seeing this game more and more, especially in like these developer diary videos that they've just been posting up here and there on YouTube. But this was, I think, their final big showing that they were going to do for it. And it feels like there's a lot to this game, and they're kind of having a hard time just condensing it down into something that's more digestible. I believe this is going to be a title that comes out and we'll just have to play and go through and have reviewers take a look at as we get closer to its release date. The nice thing is it is on Game Pass, so you just download and play it. And I have confidence in Arcane, especially with what I've seen with a bunch of their releases in the past. Deathloop from Arcane, not Arcane Austin, but Arcane in general, had something I think that was kind of similar to this in the sense that they showed it over and over again. people got kind of tired and fatigued from it, and I don't think it showed that well either. But then it comes out, and it was just a good game. Now, Arcane Austin did things like we had Dishonored, right, or Prey, and I like those games. So I will be checking out Redfall. It's going to be a story-driven shooter, single-player online co-op with 4 players. They tried to describe it more as a Far Cry game rather than a Left 4 Dead experience, and you can kind of see it in the structure of the game where there is a world you can just walk out and just discover things for yourself that's happening. They mentioned some events or side missions will just sort of just take place in the world as you are walking around discovering different locations. But you can just take missions from what looks like a little board that they have in your home base that you set up. And then you can go around and hunt down different vampires that then lead you to reclaiming territory or neighborhoods. And then that leads you to like a big boss vampire, and seemed like it was all tied into the experience of getting better guns, better abilities, and just kind of running down different vampires with your friends. And I do think that's kind of the way they're setting this up to be enjoyed the most, is with other people playing through it. Sort of that co-op experience, fighting against the supernatural. I do like some of the weapons, though, because some of them look pretty cool, like high-tech, and then you have others where they're just like a guitar broke off the neck of it so it's sharp, and they just duct tape it to the end so it's like a stake that you can hit some of the vampires with. So it does look kind of fun, where some of the weapons look like they're literally just hanging together with string and that sort of thing. They said it's a way to customize your weapons further, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of cosmetic stuff in Redfall, which is obviously shaping up to be a live service title out of Arcane Austin. It's coming out May 2nd, though, so that rumor date was correct, and that kind of lines up what we have right now when it comes to the release schedule, starting in April with Minecraft Legends, and then running right into Redfall. And then from there, we go into the Elder Scrolls Online expansion in June. The biggest thing, though, is they're missing Forza Motorsport, and I kind of originally thought that may have ended up in June even. Like, it would have been nice for that to just kind of pop up in April, and Minecraft Legends was a March release, but now it's looking like Forza could end up in the second half of 2023, maybe alongside of Starfield. But overall, looking at the show that Microsoft put out here, I would say, looking back at their history of shows, especially with things like Inside Xbox, which, by the way, this was an Inside Xbox, let's be real, it would have been like 2 hours long. In that case, this is one of their better showcases that they've done. That's not E3. All right, so E3, clearly they're going to have all the games there, a ton of stuff to go over. This being one that was a bit more spur of the moment just to get 2023 started, I think was fine for them. And I would prefer this format going forward. And you know what? If they can do things like a shadow drop thrown in there with a game that looks genuinely creative and one you might not even expect to come out of Xbox at this point, yeah, I thought it was fine, and I hope this is the format they go forward with. It doesn't even have to be 40 minutes long. If they have 3 games to show, but they think they can line something like this up and it's 15 or 20 minutes long, great. You can also work to incorporate other third-party games, maybe indies or just any games that are coming to Xbox, just to put a spotlight on them as well. So I think this is a good starting point for Microsoft with their developer directs, and maybe the name will grow on me, but that's the other part, is I feel like they have to figure out a better name for it. And no, not Inside Xbox. That is, we've seen them attempt it. I think it has a bit of a stigma attached to it now as being bloated and hours of content that's very unnecessary. And I feel like this format now going forward, basically doing what Nintendo figured out a long time ago, is the way to go. So I like what we saw here from Microsoft. The Forza release date is the big miss, I think, from here. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. If I had to put a grade on it, probably a B-. If it had the Forza release date, I would probably go to a solid B for what they showed here. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.